What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Fit, Healthy, and most of all, Happy podcast. As always, I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
And 500 episodes done. Thank you, everyone, for how much amazing feedback we got on episode 500. It was just jam-packed with killer tips. So if you haven't had the chance to check that out yet, definitely be sure to check that out. And we just want to take another second to say thank you so much for tuning in, for getting us to that 500 mark. And we're so excited for the next 500. It feels like a fresh start, and we know they're going to be even better than they were. So if you love the podcast before, we have so many exciting plans to build on it, to keep content new, refreshing, and engaging. So make sure you're continuing to tune in. Set a reminder. Monday and Thursday episodes come out at 1 a.m. So no matter what time you wake up, unless you wake up at 12:59, which maybe you're on night shifts, I don't know, it will be out and ready for you, and you will be good to go. So make sure to keep tuning in because we got killer stuff planned. But this is Motivation Monday, and we're here to start off by just getting you motivated. And I think one of the best ways to do that is with some killer quotes. So I'm going to go ahead and take it off with mine. So my quote for this week is, "Do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do." And I just want that to sink in for a second and for you to think how you can apply that to your life. I think when you hear this quote, you could think of it so many different ways in so many different situations. But the one that really comes to mind to me is when we can only half do something. A good example is your scheduling gets all messed up. You get really stuck at your house and maybe you had an hour to get to the gym and you go, I'm not going to be able to do my full hour workout. I'm only going to be able to do 45 minutes. I may as well not go. Like, that is just not the attitude you want. Yes, you can't do it fully. Yes, you mismanage your time, but doing what you can in this situation is better than not doing it at all, especially if there's no other time for you to take an appropriate rest day, or if you're overworked, or even I've had days where I plan to go to the gym later in the day. I've done a million things. I've been mentally, physically exhausted, and I'll say, I'll go into the gym. I'm going to get this workout done, and even if I'm doing it 60, 70%, that's better than me not doing it. Because in that moment, maybe it's not smart for me to do that 100%. I know my ability, we'll talk about this later, but instead for me to get something in, to get some glycogen, to get that movement, I'm going to benefit more. So oftentimes we'll really let what we can't do get in the way of what we could do. Another example is you log all your calories perfect. Someone shows up at your door, knocks on the door and says, "All right, get in the car, loser. We're going somewhere. I'm taking you out to this super special place you've always wanted to go." And don't just have that attitude that, I'm going to throw this day away and be absolutely ridiculous. Instead, enjoy that food, chew it a little bit slower, have water beforehand. Maybe you don't care for the dessert there. You wanted that fun thing and you're happy with that. So just have that attitude, even sometimes when you can't do things perfect, because it's so easy to have that all or nothing mindset. And I mentioned before how that's probably the number one thing I find people shoot themselves in the foot with, is just that all or nothing mindset. It's, if I can't do it all the way, I'm just going to go off the rails. But sometimes, like, just doing what you can in that situation is the best. I have a very militant morning routine. There's a lot of things I want to do. I didn't get to meditate today. There's days where I'm not able to do that. Things pop up. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean I'm not going to do anything from my routine. So oftentimes doing what you can, just being consistent, showing up, you're going to get way more results than the perfectionist who is all or nothing.
Yeah, and it's funny that Josh mentioned this, because yesterday when we were going rock climbing in the morning, I was thinking, later today we have a big rock climbing sesh. There was part of me that wanted to make a couple different, I guess you could say, excuses to, we were doing back and biceps as well. But then I was like, you know what? I started telling myself, maybe I'll just take out pull downs. I may not do my farmer's walks, whatever, but I'm still going to get in there. And when I got in there, I just wanted to do everything. I felt so good. I absolutely crushed it. But just because you have something planned later on, similar to what you're saying, you don't just say no, you don't just skip out on it. And that's something that stood out to me as well, because we had an amazing workout and then amazing rock climbing session. You just feel so incredible with that. But what I love about quotes, and when Josh started talking about that, I started to think of something different. I started thinking of strengths and weaknesses. There's so many people that will allow what they can't do, the weaknesses that they have, affect them from what they can do. They'll let that eat them away. You start to not want to do something because you're like, I'm not this strong in this area. But honestly, focusing on your strengths, in my personal opinion, we all have so many things that we're good at, and we allow those negatives, those failures, those things that we're not as great at, just eat us alive. It holds us back. And it's such an important lesson to just use those strengths to our advantage, push through, and just show up no matter what. So that was a great quote. And jumping into the quote section, which is also going to translate into my thoughts and a bit of a rant, which I think you're really going to love. I'm going to take it away here. It's something I came across the other day, and it's something I'm very passionate about and explained everything very well. Eat 5 small meals per day and run. Also, only eat breakfast and dinner and walk. Also, eat lots of protein and lift, and don't do any cardio. It's bad for your joints. Fruit's obviously good for you, but it's also sugar and it's bad for you. Veggies are good, but also poison, and you should avoid. Protein's hurting your kidneys. Make sure you eat a lot of it. Never starve yourself unless you're calling it intermittent fasting, and then it's okay to starve yourself a little bit. Being vegan's obviously the healthiest lifestyle, and also, no, it's not. Fish is obviously super good for you, but it's full of mercury and it's killing you. Get some sun every day for vitamin D and skin cancer. And so this is obviously something that's just absolute nonsense, but it describes fitness so well. And it's just something that I think holds so many people back because there's so many things. Like every time you go online, there's just a lot of nonsense. There's different points being contradicted. There's different people saying different things. And it's just about time that it stops. But unfortunately, I don't think it ever is going to stop. And this alone just really shows you how confusing the entire fitness industry can be. Like when we started this podcast 500 episodes ago, Josh and I sat down and we literally looked online and we're like, there's so much nonsense. Like we need to break through the noise. It's confusing. People are struggling because of it. It's never going to get better because there's so much more of it that comes out, but at least we can do our part. And I wanted to kind of jump into my thoughts here. Like you will always hear stuff from different people. Like I kid you not, there have been people who smoked a pack of cigarettes a day who will tell you that, and I've had this happen, that's how I know that too much protein is bad for you. Like there will be people who binge drink consistently who will sit there and tell you that the coffee's horrible for you that you're having and you should stay away. Like there's just always so much nonsense, and I really recommend, it is something I'm so passionate about because I see it every single day. Like listen to those people who it's something that it's their full-time job, and really choose who you're listening to wisely, because if you just go out in public and you listen and take advice and search on Google and all this other stuff, you are going to be highly misguided. It's something that drives me nuts if you can't tell, but that's going to be my little quote/rant for the day.
Yeah, a good reminder that too much of anything good is bad for you. So sun, it's true, sun is amazing for you, but you go out at it too much, there can be a lot of detrimental effects. Even something like water, you hear of events of people sadly dying from hazing incidents with water and frats and all these different crazy things. And it's just a good reminder to not get too in the weeds and to just focus on doing things you can control, being healthy. And people are so quick to say anything you do that there's a downside. One of my favorites lately is people are saying vegetables are bad for you. That's kind of the new craze. And every time I hear it, I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like it's hard to deal with. And there's always that expert that'll pop in, like Kyle said, someone who's having 10 beers. They'll go, hey, do you know actually chicken's bad for you? It's going to destroy your liver. And you're like, oh my goodness, I can't win. So it's really important not to get overwhelmed by these things and get in the mud with everything, because you start thinking, I can't drink this water anymore. Did you know that our water supply has X, Y, Z? Like you can really like just inhibit your results by getting too in the weeds with all this stuff. And that's why we always like to say it depends too. Like too much of anything is bad. Finding balance, being reasonable, all these things are good. There's a time and a place to actually have junk food. Sure, it's not amazing for me, but food is enjoyable. It's an experience. It can make you happy. It can do things, but you have too much of it, you feel horrible. So I just think that was incredibly well said. And I think that really illustrates that point quite well. So it was an awesome quote/rant to share. And now as we continue into the thoughts, once again, just finished Atomic Habits. And I loved his principle of never missing twice. So we're human. It happens. We make mistakes. We're never perfect. But I love this rule of never missing twice. So if you're on a diet, you're hitting your calories, and let's say you don't hit your calories one day, make it a rule that you're going to hit your calories no matter what the next day. You miss your morning walk, never miss the morning walk the next day. Don't allow yourself to do that, because that's when things become slumps. Maybe you have one bad meal, it turns into two, it turns into a bad day turns into a bad week. Instead, if you make that habit to say, I never miss twice, or you miss a workout, you never miss it 2 days in a row. Even something like that kind of accounts for you not to be perfect, but it allows you to have that little bit of margin of error, but still stay on the wagon, if you will. It's not going to cause you to fall off and just end up in this abyss where it seems impossible to get back to it. And oftentimes, one of the biggest detriments to being, like I mentioned before, being all or nothing, the other one I would say is breaking momentum. When we have momentum, things are easy. It takes less willpower. It's consistent. It's simple. But the second we lose it is when it gets hard. So if you've gone to the gym for a month, you've been consistent 5 days a week, and then you go on vacation and you miss that that week, don't miss that second week, because oftentimes that's where, when you're not going for 2 weeks, it's kind of like, you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to go back in there. I don't look as good. People will notice. I'm not going to feel as good. I'm going to be sore. Instead, rip that Band-Aid off, get in there, get it done. And just that adage of never missing twice can be applied to so many things. Never miss 2 episodes of this podcast, just the same. So I think that's a great little rule, an awesome rule to live by. And that one's really stuck in for me in the book. The same with what would a healthy person do. That's something I've continued to just apply all throughout my life. It's just so easy to use. I spoke to that last week. And I think another good thought is, this is probably my 4th time listening to Atomic Habits. Sometimes it can seem repetitive, but if you go in there and you look for that golden nugget, you never know what you'll pull out, even if it's something you've read a million times before, or it could be the way we said this podcast. Maybe a quote could hit you in a different way, or it could be so applicable to where you are in life. So don't discredit things you've already read that are amazing pieces of content. Don't always be reaching for that new thing. Sometimes you got to go into the oldies but goodies, and you'll draw some really amazing applications out of it.
And it kind of relates to fitness in a way, right? Where so many people are reaching for that like new and exciting thing, when there's just so much great stuff actually out there. Even just audiobooks. Like, if you listen to something for 4 years in a row and you're evolving and you're growing, there's going to be something that stands out to you. And I thought that was incredibly well said. But past that, Josh and I the other day, we were talking about pre-workouts, and he loves C4. And I had shared a specific pre-workout that I got that has like a lot of caffeine, and it's like per scoop. And he had said that it's hard, like, and this is so true, just to like, you know, if you say I'm going to have a half scoop, generally speaking, you're going to put a full scoop there. It's kind of like filling up your plate. If you're going to fill up your entire plate, you have a bigger plate, you're going to eat it all. You're going to fill it up entirely, right? And it kind of reminds me, it's this thing called Parkinson's Law. And that's the adage that work will expand to fill the time allotted for its completion. Deadlines can cause procrastination or even prompt people to fill their time with trivial matters. And this is a really interesting law, because if you think of when you have a project to do, if someone says it's due by Sunday at 11:59 p.m., you'll probably submit it like very shortly before that. Whereas like even specific to goals, like there's so many things I can think of where like you're just always expanding. You're always trying to like adapt to like whatever's in front of you. You have a scoop of pre-workout. You're not just going to take a quarter. You're not going to take a half for the most part. You're going to fill it up entirely. So it's a good reminder for anyone who's setting goals to try to condense it, to try to give yourself, you know, a realistic amount of time, but like not, if you give yourself forever, you're going to take forever to get there. And I find that having deadlines, having just specifics, like this helps so many people. Like even someone said to me recently, like, you know, when it comes to running, like if I were to if someone were to try to get me to go back to running again and do that, you got to give me a goal. Like you got to give me some sort of time frame and I'll accomplish it. And I know so many people are like that for fat loss, for lifting weights, like for whatever it is that you're striving for. Those that have that deadline, they have that direction, they're the ones that succeed. So I know I took like a 360 with pre-workout, with procrastination, but also it relates to fitness, as I'm always thinking. And yeah, that's my last thought for today.
Draw applications in your life as well. If you're like, wow, I learned studying this way would actually be a good structure to use in my gym life and with my reading life. Like the more you can apply these things, and especially if you know a system works for you or a thought works for you or an application, use in other areas and use that to level up, build momentum. And it's an easy way to just generate, like I said, momentum and advance in any area of your life. And this is the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast. And we love the Monday because it's more of a loose structure, gives more of an ability to draw these applications. And we hope you walking through our thought process with these things can also help you do the same and perhaps break through obstacles that are in your way in your journey. And speaking of obstacles, who is our client that broke through their obstacles and achieved their transformation today?
So this week we have Brianna, who has been working with the awesome coach Armando, and she has dropped 30 pounds, which is absolutely phenomenal. If you are watching on YouTube, you can see a screenshot of her transformation. You can also click down below or search Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast to watch this, to see our motions, to see, you know, just our hands moving and, you know, smiles and all that great stuff, but also a couple other photos and great information there. But she had done an incredible transformation. She's still working. She's still getting to that next level, and she's just doing some incredible things. And I really like her first 2 tips. I mean, they're all incredible. We always ask, hey, what's your tip for your transformation, but she had said, set short and long-term goals that are realistic and achievable, similar to what I was just talking about there with the deadlines, but also just make a plan, make changes and adjustments based on what your goals are. And that's so true. Like there's always going to be different obstacles, different changes. You might strive for one thing and have to shift gears. And that's where obviously having a coach comes in handy, having someone actually be there to support you, because I find so many people struggle because they don't have that person who can help them shift gears, who can see around corners that you can't see around, and who's helped, like, just even when it comes to having a game plan and like looking at a map, like when you have that full on trajectory, you know where you're going, how you're going to get there, all that great stuff, it's so much easier to succeed. And I wish there was like a statistic of how many people succeed with a coach and without, because I guarantee you it's got to be crazy, the numbers, like those that have that guidance, that support. And that's why right now we're actually taking on 4 people who want to lose fat and build muscle this summer. All you have to do is send us a message to our Instagram at ColossusFit, ColossusFit, with the keyword fat loss. We will take care of you. We guarantee your results, and you will never look back and be like, I wish I didn't do this. Like you're going to be like, I wish I did this sooner. And I can promise you that. So we're looking forward to helping 4 of you awesome people.
We really want to challenge you. If you've never reached out before and you want to see results and get where you want to, this is your time. I promise you, losing fat, you're going to feel more energy through the day. You're going to sleep better. You're just going to be more enthusiastic in general. You're going to feel fitter, lighter. Even for me, just doing a little mini cut, like rock climbing when I'm 10 pounds heavier versus 10 pounds lighter, is day and night. It's absolutely crazy, my ability. And one thing I love saying to clients when they lose 10, 20, 30 pounds, and maybe you have 10, 20, 30 pounds to lose, go to the gym, pick that up, and just be like, ooh, do I want to be carrying this around with me? Like when you realize how heavy 20 pounds actually is, or even if you had a backpack and you load it up with 20 pounds of stuff, walk around with it, and just think how relieved you feel when you take that off. And when you actually aren't holding that extra fat and you feel more confidence, you have more ability, you're stronger, you can push yourself up, you can pull yourself, you can see so much potential. It's just day and night, and the investment is, the benefit is limitless. Like for you to feel your best, it really goes in every area of life. And if you're not investing in yourself, it's hard to admit that you're serious about it, because this is a guaranteed way to get those results. So if you've never reached out, I want to challenge you. This is your chance. You deserve this. We guarantee we will get you there. So once again, you can DM us fat loss to get that started. I really look forward to helping those of you that are brave enough to make that leap and that investment in your own personal journey. But now we're going to jump into our mailbox. We got some killer questions today, so I'm going to take it away with number 1. And our first question is, what are the best rep ranges for toning up?
So this is a really good question. And primarily when people think toning up, losing fat, all that stuff, like they've always thought in the higher rep range. They've always thought like 20 reps, 25 reps, like all that stuff. I thought it was being busted for a while. Speaking of myths, we actually do have an episode coming out this Thursday about all these myths, so you're going to make sure to tune into that one because there's a lot of great stuff we cover. But more or less, like the range that I'd say is best for most people would be in like the 8 to 12 range for hypertrophy. However, where a lot of people struggle is they'll take this and like only work in the 8 to 12 rep range. I truly believe for the most part, anywhere between 5 and 15 does have its purpose. It depends on what movements you're doing. If you're going to start to do a bunch of deadlifts and you're in the 15 rep range, is probably not going to be the most ideal for you. More of a compound movement, more of a strength-based movement, and we'll see some incredible benefits in like the 5 to 8 rep range, sometimes even lower. We'll have some people doing 3 to 4 just for like a strength side of things. But more or less, like the biggest answer is just that it really depends on the actual programming. And that's where I think a lot of people struggle, is because they'll just like take specifics and be like, okay, well, I'm just going to do 3 sets of 10 for everything, but they won't allow themselves to see progress within the periodization, the progressive overload, like all these things that make a really big difference. And last but not least, a lot of toning, which is just simply putting on muscle, losing fat. A fancy term for it comes from a lot of other factors such as diet, sleep, just recovery, like all this other stuff. So on top of the programming, there's a lot of other things to consider, making sure you're in a slight calorie deficit, you're doing a little bit of cardio, you're monitoring your calorie intake. So I'd say these things make such a big difference. But yeah, hopefully that question answer is helpful, and I'm sure Josh will have a few other things to say.
Kyle knocked it out of the park there. If you're expecting to tone just from doing high rep, you're missing out. And high rep is awesome. It's really good. You're going to build a lot of endurance within a muscle, and it's its own thing. But where there's a big drawback with high rep, I have no problem with high rep training, but I think you need a ridiculous level of discipline to excel with it. for me to truly be correct and fatigue myself at like 15 plus reps, it is so confusing. Like you'll think you're there and then you're like, oh, I can actually probably do 30 with this weight. Like it's really hard to truly find that correct weight. And when you're doing something for like 20 reps to near failure, it's very hard to gauge once again. And you'll find your mind will give out off where your body will. You'll get bored. You won't maintain mind muscle connection. And I just find it's a little bit of a misnomer because people, especially that don't want to gain too much muscle, they'll say, hey, well, I want to avoid that, so I'm going light. And yes, you're not going to gain a ton of muscle, but you're also not really going to make much progress. If you're only operating at like 70% of your potential, you're not where you want to be. You want to be in that place where you may have maybe 1, 2, 3 reps left in the tank at most. That's where you can be in a good spot where you can achieve hypertrophy, actually challenge your muscles, cause the damage for them to heal, grow, and become stronger. And in general, if you want to be a toned person, just gain some muscle. You'll get rid of that little flabbiness on your body and instead actually just lower your body fat. And you can hold a lot of muscle, have low body fat, and look very lean, have it look make it look very natural. If it was the case that we'd all look like bodybuilders, I'd be way bigger, Kyle'd be way bigger. We train super hard, and like I don't care to be the world's biggest, most jacked bodybuilder in the world, but I do like putting on muscle, but I also like maintaining my leanness. And if you're new to the gym, you can always gauge and play with that. But I don't know anyone who's like, maybe 1 out of 100 people will say I'm getting too muscular too quickly. Oftentimes people find they're actually not getting muscle fast enough. So challenge yourself, play with rep ranges. I like using rep ranges as different tools. I make very periodized and depth routines. And those of you that are going to take that leap, message us fat loss, you're going to see just how amazing the routines I make are because they're custom and they're made for you. And for me, I like to start usually with compound movements where you're really challenging yourself. You're getting strength, gaining ability. So if you're doing a squat, deadlift, bench press, OHP, anything that is compound, you're going to get a lot of benefit out of it. I like to go a little bit heavier, a little bit harder, and sometimes I'll superset with like an AMRAP, and that can be really beneficial. So that's doing as many reps as possible after your last set just to burn it out and get that feel. Just the same as I get later in my workout, when I find you're more fatigued, it's probably not wise for you to be working near your maxes doing really heavy technical lifts because you're already pre-fatigued, and it can be a little more detrimental. So that's where I'll do maybe 15 reps for my tricep pushdowns or 20 reps for my kickbacks. But oftentimes, for most people, you're going to be really set in that 5 to 15 rep range. So playing around in there, you can't really go wrong. It's a lot of benefit. And there's always reasons for the others, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20. Like they all have their place, but it gets a little more complicated. But toning, if you're over concerned with rep ranges, you're kind of missing the point. And instead, I would really just focus on your diet, and you can build a better package from that and have that assisted with your strength training.
Yeah, and even like looking at an example of, let's say, a pull day for us, there's going to be so many different variations. And an easy way to tell like when someone's lazy, I remember seeing this posted before, is like when trainers would just post like 3x10 and that's it for every single thing. And it's like, really, should they all be 3x10? But for example, let's say a deadlift, we might have 3x5 to 6, with some heavy weights. We might go into a barbell row, 6 to 8 reps for 3 sets. A lat pull down might be 10 to 12 reps. And then near the end, like some bicep curls, maybe 10 to 15 or 12 to 15 or something like that. But you can see things will change. And that's where so many people get stuck, is just doing the same reps for the rest of their life with not much change. They can't really increase the weights because they're just at a plateau. And there's so many things to consider. And that's why I find a lot of people also just struggle with their routines because they just get bored, or they're trying to switch it up too quick, or they're just not doing the right stuff. And of course, that's where having someone who's done this for 10 plus years help them out will go such a long way. So that's the last thing I had to say about that.
Programming is complicated. I like to say it's like composing a song. You need choruses. You need it to start intelligently. Like you don't want to just jump into a song in the chorus. It's weird. It needs to build up into it. It needs to build out. There's so many things that go into it. And a routine is so similar. And that's where like I take a lot of passion in the routines I make and really just making it for the person. And the specificness of it. Like if I give someone who really likes light, soft music, screamo, they're gonna be like, what the heck? I'm not doing this. Maybe you're new to the gym and I have you doing 10 sets of 2 deadlift, 10 sets of 2 bench, and then like 50 ball slams. You're like, what the heck is this? Like, this isn't what I'm jumping into here. I'm not doing like hardcore powerlifting or something like that. And that's why routine should be made for you. It should have your goals. It should have your needs. It should have any background issues you have. You have injuries, it should work around there. It should be intelligent so it doesn't leave you getting injured, being overextended. There's just so many intricacies into it, and just following one off Google, you're really missing out. You're leaving a lot of gains on the table. That's where having a coach to make that for you, explain it to you, to be able to send form videos is just, it's an amazing resource and it will completely transform. And that's why you see these photos of people just taking off fat, gaining a lot of muscle, amazing people just like you who are listeners, who reached out, who jumped into the program and saw amazing change. Well, I really want to challenge you to, if this is your goal, if this is something you want to achieve, put your money where your mouth is, invest in yourself, because you are worth it. Go ahead and message us fat loss on Instagram to @ColossusFit to get that started. ColossusFit. Now into the next question. Number 2 is it okay to exercise when I'm sore? Sometimes I get really, really sore. So is it okay when I'm really, really sore? So general rule of thumb, you don't want to train the same muscle group back to back. And the reason for this is you do want time for your body to heal. That way, the goal of lifting is you're working out your muscles, they're ripping to really dumb it down to a simple sense. And then they're going to build back stronger. They're going to say, oh my goodness, there was so much damage. We need to be stronger for that next workout. And that's how you can gain strength, size, definition, all of these amazing things. Soreness is different. Soreness is inflammation, especially when you do something new, you'll become heavily inflamed. And there's a certain point where sometimes you can be sore for 4 or 5 days and you can be like, what the heck? Does that mean I can't work out because I'm still sore? Oftentimes you'll find if you just get some blood flow, you'll be good to go. It's not the end of the world, especially if you do something new or something you haven't done in a while. We went rock climbing yesterday. We really pushed it. It's weird positions, weird movements. My forearms are absolutely shot today. Did that mean I skipped my leg workout? Absolutely not. I can still grab onto the bar. I'm still fine. It's just a little bit of discomfort. Saying so, if you really push it and you're insanely sore where you can't walk, you don't feel right moving, maybe that's not the right time to train legs. But there really shouldn't be a reason you're like that unless it's you adapting into a new workout structure where you just started doing this new workout. Because in that case, it's going to be pretty bad. You're going to have to let your body adapt into it and you're going to have to sort of pay that price. But once again, if you're on a smart routine, you won't have that overlap and you should be able to do that intelligently. And if it's absolutely unbearable, that's why I like flexible rest days. I don't tell my clients you need to rest Tuesday and Thursday. I'll just say, like, if you're on 5 days, you have 2 days to rest, use them how you want. So maybe you kill it Monday and you're like, I am dead. Take Tuesday off, you get in there Wednesday, you feel good. Again, Thursday, you're dead, and then you rest there. Like, it gives you that option to kind of play with it. But soreness is just inflammation, and the easiest way to kind of work against that is just get blood flow to your muscle, warm up with a walk, spend a bit more time warming up, you'll be totally fine. But soreness dissipates really quick. Like, I get sore now, but not to the extent you would if you're doing something new or if I was doing something new. So usually it's variety where your muscle isn't used to those certain patterns. And that's where it's not always good to be just switching up workouts for the sake of it. And that's where you really want to let yourself mature into a workout, because I'm not getting excessively sore because I'm familiar with the movements and I can optimize those patterns, get stronger within them, because this is a routine I'm following for my 12, 16, whatever block it is. And it allows me to mature into them, get stronger and develop. Whereas if I keep switching around, it's like just learning to drive a new car each time. Like when you get in your car, you get in, you know where the wipers are, you know where the high beams are, you know how to adjust your seat. If you got into my car, you'd be like, I don't know any of this. This is different. This is so weird. And you'd waste a lot of time before you can even get out. And that's what happens if you hop around workout routines too much. So that's my answer and my rant for that one.
I love Josh's analogies, like, you know, relating it to cars. And then also the last question just about like the song stuff. Even myself there, I was thinking like that song example, I'm like, that really puts things into perspective, which is awesome. But my big thing here is like when you do become like super sore to the point where it's like unbearable, like asking yourself what it is that you think is taking place. Not everyone will know, but like if I start doing Bulgarian split squats, I'm using 5 pounds, and next week, you know, I'm working out with Josh, he's using 50s, and I'm like, you know what, let's go to 50s. Like I'm not going to be walking for a few days, which will impact the next leg day if that's taking place, which isn't necessarily as ideal. Like there's typically a reason why it's taking place. Like Josh said, you just started a new workout routine. Okay, take it easy. It's going to be fine. You just started a couple new movements. Stuff like that's going to happen. But even if someone, let's say, skips leg day for the last 3 weeks, they hit their first one, like it's easy to not realize and be like, oh, it's just because I did legs. But it's like, no, it's because you skipped your last 3 leg days. But even like my client Stephanie, she just started to increase the weight on her stiff leg deadlifts, and she texted me the DOMS, the delayed onset muscle soreness, was just like crazy. And that typically is a movement where anytime you get in a stretch, like a chest fly, a stiff leg deadlift, anything like that, that's going to typically cause a lot of people to be sore. But even as you increase the weight there, it's going to be even worse. But being able to be aware of these things, pay attention to it. I try not to necessarily be like destroyed when I work out, but I've kind of gotten used to just like that soreness, because like things will pop up. Like for example, I know that this forearm stuff from yesterday rock climbing session, because it was crazy, tomorrow might be a little bit interesting, but you kind of just get used to it at a certain point, and just it's all good as long as it's not something that's gonna cause you to, like, if you, like Josh said, like you can't walk and you're bent over and you're gonna have poor posture with your back and all this stuff. Like, you have to be careful, but being aware of what the difference is between pain and a little bit of soreness or discomfort is a very important thing to consider. So yeah, that's all I have to say for that one.
The other thing I would say is, like, don't be a hero, know when to rest. Even for me, like a deload, I don't love doing them. It feels like I'm being lazy, but it's that attitude of one step backwards, two steps forwards. And sometimes I get caught up, and some people in general, I'd say deload every 4 to 12 weeks is probably the best time frame. I find I'm best right around 10 weeks. That's kind of where I push, and I'll just know I'm in there, I'm working out, maybe at like 90% of my normal 100. I just don't feel the same energy. I feel a little beat up. I feel a little sore. I feel a little uneven. That'll be an appropriate time for me to take a deload, to have that advantage and to feel my best there. And generally what I'll do for deloads is I'll just do my movements at about 60 to 70% of my normal weight. I'll really just focus on getting great contractions, doing amazing breathing, being very present, good breaths, being on my phone less. And it's just a really nice reset. Well, you'll feel yourself again, especially if you are powerlifting and lifting really heavy. It goes a long way just to let your body have that reset. And maybe you're a newer person in the gym, you feel amazing always, you don't need something like that. Doesn't mean you need to take it. And even sometimes knowing you could take a deload is refreshing, because you're like, I don't need it, but if I needed it, I could. Sometimes when you're stuck into that rhythm, you're stuck into that regimen, it can be a little bit disheartening and demotivating to get in there and do it. So I find that is a big relief. Another benefit is an unload week. Maybe you're going to a cottage for a week, there's no gyms, it's hyper inconvenient, and you can say, I'm going to train super hard up until that point. I'll maybe do 3 bodyweight workouts that aren't as intense, or I'll go on long walks, hikes, paddleboard, kayak, whatever, and you can have that as an unload week to kind of let yourself reset. I mean, I still personally prefer to lift myself, but for the average person, this can be an incredibly convenient way to enjoy that vacation, also get that rest from the gym. And then it's just really important, like I said, never miss twice. When you get back, you just got to get back to training. After a little bit of time off, it'll be a little bit harder, it'll be a little bit sore, but you'll find you kind of find your way back into rhythm in no time. So awesome answers there. Really good question. We like to take it a few different ways, so I do hope that was helpful. Then the last question is, how long is it ideal to rest between sets? So I'll go ahead and say it just depends. General rule of thumb, in my opinion, I would recommend 45 seconds to about 2 minutes for most people, for most exercises. Now there's exceptions to every rule. I don't really think you need less than 40 seconds, and I think in general that is way too short. I would say you should always kind of be between 60 and 90 seconds for most things, for most basic movements. And then if you're powerlifting, doing heavy compounds, I like to take as long as I need, and that's kind of where I feel best, because they're so heavy and hard. Sometimes for a deadlift, if I'm really killing it, I will need 5 minutes. Like, that's a non-negotiable. Whereas with my curls, I'll feel like I need 15 seconds, but I know if I go into it before that minute and a half, I'm compromising the quality of what I can do. And the simplest and best answer is you can go back to it once you know you can do that set to the same capacity you just did with the same intention. And of course, it may not always be exactly the same, but you'll know when you're ready to go. And if you are someone who gets too giddy and you want to just keep going and you're not taking proper rest, you're not going to get strong, you're not going to get good contractions, you're going to rush through it, there's going to be no focus. Set a timer on your phone, force yourself to wait, and learn that pacing, and then eventually you can remove that phone, that timer, and you'll be in a better place there. But once again, in general, I would recommend for most people be 60 to 90. If you need longer, take it. For the harder movements, take it as well. But that's kind of my opinion, and everyone has different opinions. We all have different time frames. We can be in the gym, things we can do, but it's really important you just allow yourself to fully rest up so you can get at it with that same capacity.
And like Josh said, it depends. Like, the way that you should be approaching your fitness journey is honestly doing what works best for you, where you see the best results, where you feel the best day to day, where your energy is amazing, where everything comes together. And because my quote earlier on was talking a lot about like nutrition and a lot of all the disconnects and the back and forth and the things that people say. Same with training. There's a lot of stuff out there. Like, there'll be one guy out there who says deadlifts are the absolute worst, should never do it, stay away from it. Then there's someone who just praises it, says it's amazing. Same with rep schemes. Some people firmly believe in just like supersetting everything. Some people say take your 2 minutes, powerlifting type style, even just full body versus like the split body part. Like, there's a lot of stuff out there. That's why truly I believe having someone who knows you best and can create a system for you will always work the best. But past that, just trying to really experiment and do what works best for you. Like, there's a lot of people who give into all this stuff and they try some things and then they go up and down, especially the more you spend time on social media, the more that you can get confused, right? So anyways, hopefully these questions were helpful. Once again, if you are looking to just push through all the noise, push through all the confusion, get rid of all the nonsense that's out there, just take a leap, message us with the keyword fat loss. We will take care of you. And we'll, like, even our coaches are, our clients are so happy because they have that one person they check in with. They have a question about something, they can just reach out to us and that's it. They don't have to spend any more time searching on Google, trying to figure any of this stuff out. We have them and we will absolutely take care of them. And we're excited for 4 more of you people to join our program. And anything else, or is that
That's it? Once again, I encourage you, you are worth it. Making this investment in yourself is the best thing you can do. You pay to learn other skills and talents, and learning to do this the right way will save you so much time and energy. And even just seeing what you're capable of is an amazing thing. Like, it'll open your eyes to your potential, and we can't wait to work with you and do that. So once again, take advantage. Hit us up on Instagram at ColossusFit, ColossusFit, saying fat loss, and we look forward to taking care of you. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. Really jam-packed, informational episode. We really do hope you learned a lot. See you in the next one. Peace out.